Joe Biden, he seems to have settled on a two-pronged strategy. One is that he is going to continue to just try and throw money at people. So he is now presenting the president of the United States. Remember, he still exists. Remember Joe Biden? I know we forgot about him since Saturday. But the old senile man is still there, purportedly running the country. It's actually probably Joe, but supposedly he's still there. Well, he has a new pitch. His new pitch that he is proposing today is to cap rental costs nationwide. Okay, now this is insane. There's no actual economic benefit to this. You can't just cap increases in rents nationwide without drastically reducing the supply. Rent control has failed literally everywhere it has ever been tried. There are entire swaths of New York that were burned during the 1970s because of rent control, because it turns out that when you can't increase rent to keep up with costs, people just abandon the upkeep on their apartments or burn them down for the insurance money. But Joe Biden is now proposing that nationwide. So he's already tried paying off college students and ex-college students by alleviating their student loan debt illegally. Now, according to the Washington Post, Biden's plan, which would need to be approved by Congress, calls for stripping a tax benefit from landlords who increase their tenants' rent more than 5% per year. The measure would only apply to landlords who own more than 50 units, which represents roughly half of all rental properties. It would not cover units that have not yet been built in an attempt to ensure the policy does not discourage construction of new rental housing. That's idiotic. Of course it will discourage new rental housing. If I'm about to build a 60-unit place, that just means that it's going to kick in a year from now when I raise the rent 6%. It requires congressional support, which means that he's going to yell at Republicans about not doing it. But the proposal itself is idiotic. It is presumably illegal. I mean, it is certainly a violation of the takings clause to simply say that people are not allowed to increase the rents consummate with the market. He's trying to do this in Nevada because rents have been rising relatively steeply in Nevada. But if he believes that he's going to tamp down inflation in housing costs by essentially destroying the new supply of housing with rent control, he is out of his mind. But again, there's not much mind left there from President Biden. So that is prong number one, try to pay people off. And it's not going to work very well. Prong number two was declare Donald Trump a scourge to democracy. The problem, of course, is that after the attempted assassination of Donald Trump on Saturday, that line of attack should be off the table for him. Because after all, when you keep saying over and over, as we've been saying, when you keep saying that somebody is Hitler, that person is going to end democracy, that the election of that person is going to literally end the country, there will be no more democracy, no more elections, then people might take that the wrong way and go and try and shoot the president in the head, for example. And Joe Biden himself supposedly recognized this. You'll recall just yesterday on this program when we discussed President Biden going to the Oval Office and giving a 6-minute speech that he barely was able to read from a teleprompter that was misaligned with his eye line, in which he declared that it was time to cool it down and take it down notches, cool it. And what I said at the time was, I didn't believe him. And the reason I didn't believe him is because he didn't say one phrase, including me. He should have said, we all need to take down the temperature, including me. And instead he said, we all need to take down the temperature, including you. Right? Which is effectively blaming Trump for his own attempted assassination. Well, if you thought that Joe Biden was going to be honest about his own role in all of this, wrong you are. So first, Karine Jean-Pierre made this absolutely clear. World's most untalented White House press secretary. She was asked about calling Donald Trump a threat to democracy. Will you keep saying that? And she said, of course we'll keep calling. Of course we're going to do that. Like, you think we're going to give up the central thrust of our political campaign?
The view is that Trump and the MAGA Republican agenda is a threat to democracy. So how do you get that message across while bringing the temperature down? How is that phrasing going to be replaced? Is it going to be replaced?
Well, look, what I can say is this. We have our differences, and it's okay to have our differences. And it is okay to speak to someone's record, to speak to someone's character. That is the difference of, that is important to be able to do, to show, right, what the American people, what you're all about. We're just going to continue to denounce violence. It is important to do that, forcefully be against violence. Political violence has no place in America. It should not be. It does not have a place here. The president's going to continue to be very, very forceful about that. But we have a difference of agenda. That is the truth.
Okay, so the difference of agenda also includes continuing to maintain that your political opponent is going to end democracy. I'm about as pro-Second Amendment as it gets, but the thought of using lethal force, well, it's not ideal for everybody. This is why you need to check out Byrna. And the reality is you want to protect your family? Introducing the Byrna Ungun, the non-lethal self-defense platform. Lightweight, simple to use. It uses an easy-to-load 5-round magazine. It's powered by an 8-gram CO2 cartridge. Byrna launchers fire a 68 caliber chemical-filled projectile using a patented pull-pierce technology, where the CO2 canister is only punctured on the first trigger pull. That means your launcher is always ready. It's capable of incapacitating an attacker for over 30 minutes. It's accurate and effective at over 60 feet. Doesn't require permits, no background checks. It is interstate travel friendly. With Byrna, you will be prepared to defend. The Byrna is a safer, more sensible alternative that could potentially save lives on both sides. Visit Byrna.com/Ben for 10% off your purchase. That's BYRNA.com/Ben. Check out the latest news about Byrna. That's BYRNA.com/Ben. As we were saying, President Biden, he was supposed to do an interview with Lester Holt over the weekend, and then it was going to air this week. Well, finally, the interview has come out. It was going to be yet another referendum on whether he can continue to maintain his run. And that's all been put on hold. As of last Friday, there was a lot of discussion about whether he was going to be forced from the race yet again, because every Democrat looked at him and they said he is senile, he is losing, he is down in all the swing states. By one poll from the Wall Street Journal, he's down 6 nationally to Donald Trump, which is a disaster area poll for him. Right now, in the Real Clear Politics polling average, he is down nationally to Donald Trump in the 5-way by 4.1 points. That is the poll, the 5-way that includes RFK Jr., for example. Worth noting, by the way, RFK Jr. did, in fact, stop by the RNC yesterday to meet with Trump. We are not sure what that is about at this time. Maybe it is Trump brokering with RFK to drop out of the race and throw him his support in return for, say, EPA administrator or something, which is really what I assume RFK Jr. would like to do. Okay, but because of the disaster area that has beset Biden, there's been a lot of talk about replacing him on the ticket. That all went away when somebody tried to shoot the former president of the United States in the head. It just overshadowed everything. But Biden's back, and he sounds worse than ever. So here was Joe Biden with Lester Holt, and he was asked by Lester Holt about his rhetoric. This ended up being filmed after, of course, the assassination attempt. Here we go.
Well, let's talk about the conversation this has started, and it's really about language, what we say out loud and the consequences of those. You called your opponent an existential threat on a call a week ago. You said it's time to put Trump in the bullseye. There's some dispute about the context, but I think you appreciate that.
I didn't say crosshairs. I was talking about focus on. Look, the truth of the matter was, what I guess I was talking about at the time was, there's very little focus on Trump's agenda.
Yeah, the term was bullseye.
It was a mistake to use the word. I didn't say crosshairs. I meant bullseye. I meant focus on him.
Okay, pause it. Okay, so this is actually this criticism of Biden is the least useful one. I mentioned this in the aftermath of all the focus on the bullseye comment. It was really stupid when they applied it to Sarah Palin. The reason he is making a differentiation here, you should know, between bullseye and crosshairs is because Democrats tried to blame Sarah Palin for the attempted assassination of Congresswoman Gabby Giffords by a complete nut whack job in Arizona. They blamed a Sarah Palin map that put a crosshairs on Gabby Giffords' district as a swing district that required Republican investment. So he's trying to differentiate by saying that Sarah Palin presumably somehow incited violence, but he did not, by using the word bullseye. Again, that's very silly. But the main thrust of this particular interview from Joe Biden is going to be what I said it was, which is everyone else's rhetoric is responsible, not mine, which is kind of amazing given the fact that his entire campaign has been run on the basis that Donald Trump is an existential threat to democracy, so dire, so deep, so threatening that you must elect a non-sentient 81-year-old man to the presidency so that he cannot fill out his second term. He continues with Lester Holt. And again, he sounds just awful.
Focus on his policies. Focus on the number of lies he told in the debate. Focus. I mean, there's a whole range of things that, look, I'm not the guy that said, I want to be a dictator on day one. I'm not the guy that refused to accept the outcome of the election. I'm not the guy who said that wouldn't accept the outcome of this election automatically. You can't only love your country when you win. And so the focus was on what he's saying, and I mean, the idea.
But have you taken a step back and done a little soul searching on things that you may have said that could incite people who are not balanced?
Well, I don't think, look, how do you talk about the threat to democracy, which is real, when a president says things like he says? Do you just not say anything because it may incite somebody? Look, I've not engaged in that rhetoric.
That's a lie.
Now, my opponent is engaged in that rhetoric. He talks about there'll be a bloodbath if he loses.
Okay, pause it there. Again, this is the part where you know he's so full of shit. I mean, truly, unbelievably full of shit. I mean, when he says that he wants the country to come together, it's time to unite, and everybody needs to take it down. And then he specifically asked, have you ever said anything? Like anything that you think is over the top? He's like, no, I haven't. We literally did a litany of things that he had said on this show on Sunday, in our emergency show, after the assassination attempt. Like last week, he said that Donald Trump would be a dictator. That's a lie. When he says that Donald Trump called for a bloodbath, again, that is a lie. That is an overt, absolute, full-scale lie. Donald Trump never called for a bloodbath. He said that if Joe Biden was reelected, there would be an economic bloodbath, which is just a normal colloquial term meaning there would be a bad economy. And Joe Biden knows this. But again, the shtick here is that Donald Trump is effectively responsible for his own assassination. The only person whose rhetoric has been over the top is Donald Trump. Meanwhile, Democrats have been fully above board. Joe Biden, in his own person, has been nothing but the apotheosis of kindliness and gentility. That is in Joe Biden's mind. That's why I don't believe him when he says he wants to take down the temperature. I've been saying for years that people should stop saying on both sides that if the opponent gets elected, it's the last election, because it's total crap. It's not true. But Joe Biden says that. He says it like every single day. And then when asked by Lester Holt after the assassination attempt if he's going to stop saying it, he's like, nope, I'm going to keep saying it because he is a threat to democracy. So pardon me if I take with a giant iceberg-sized block of salt your contention that it's time to lower the temperature. I don't believe you. I think you just mean that Republicans should shut up, and you should be able to keep saying that Mitt Romney's going to put black people back in chains, Tea Partiers are terrorists, and Donald Trump is Hitler. That's what I think that you mean, Mr. President.
Are you tired of the lies and the twists of the mainstream media talking points? Yeah, me too. Join me in my newest series, Fact, where I dismantle and bring truth to this tiring mainstream agenda.